Hi friends, today I'm going to review Chetan Bhagat's latest novel, 12 Years, My Messed Up Love Story. First, let us get into the story. The story begins with the protagonist, Saket Khurana, coming back to India after leaving his high-paying job in the United States. He was in the middle of a nasty divorce with his wife, Rashi, and till now he has only always followed whatever his parents or his relatives and friends have said. So now he decides that he wants to follow his passion, and he leaves his job and he decides to become a stand-up comic. So he starts doing this stand-up comedy at his friend Mudit's comedy club in Mumbai. And during this phase, he also decides that since he had to part with 80% of his assets with his wife Rashi, he decides that marriage and love are no longer for him. But then he meets our protagonist Payal Jain during one of his stand-up comedy acts, and then he sort of instantly falls for her. Payal Jain is Stanford returnee. She works in one of the leading private equity firms in India called Blackwater. And then she also somehow sort of instantly gets attracted to Saket, and they sort of start dating immediately. And then after 1 year of living in, when another relationship comes to Payal for marriage through her parents. So what she decides is she decides to reveal to her parents about her relationship with Saket. But then Payal's parents, they are very orthodox, and then the immediate reaction from them is like they reject Saket's match for a couple of reasons. One, because Saket is a divorcee now. Then Saket is like 34 years old, and Payal is 22. So they see this 12-year age gap as a huge hindrance for this relationship. Also, Payal is a Jain and vegetarian, while Saket is not. And the bigger problem, or what they see issue with this relationship, is that Saket is now working as a stand-up comic, but then they think it's like not a general job or profession that they can explain to everyone in their circle. Okay, and it's also because they are actually interested in another guy called Parimal, who is Payal's parents, family friend's son, whom they have known from his childhood. Okay, so and Payal's father actually has a factory, so he thinks that Parimal is like a good person to actually take over the business from them. So in all ways, Payal's parents think that Parimal being a Jain and then a person whom they know, and probably even age-wise, he's all correct match. Okay. Then Saket, obviously, he tries to give multiple reasons on why he's the right match for Payal. He tries to convince her parents, but then every attempt that he does, it only ends up being a huge disaster. Okay, so from here, after a good whirlwind romance between them, we need to see what else is there in store for them in the rest of the story. Will Payal and Saket will be able to convince Payal's parents for this marriage, and does Payal also think that Saket is a good match for her or not? That is what this book is about. Um, so let us then get into my review. Um, See, the first half of the book is what I really liked when compared to the second half, because the first half is where the characters are introduced, and then all this introduction of both the characters happens, and then their dating and in all their romance and all. It's very well written. It's very fast paced and it's very interesting. And also in the first half is where Payal's parents have these objections, and the conflicts start getting difficult and also complex between both of them, with Payal's parents objecting to this relationship. So that is where I felt the pace is good, the story is also interesting, because of all these differences that both the characters have with respect to the age, or Saket being like 12 years older than her, or he being a divorcee, and how it is like a taboo in the Indian society still, and his profession not being a very what you call the general mainstream profession, because of which her parents are sort of objecting, and even Payal is also at one point very much confused if Saket is the right option, because Saket has his own reservations about getting married at this point after whatever happened in his first marriage, and all the what trauma that he had to go through during the divorce, and letting go of a large amount of his money and all of that. Um, so this is where everything gets interesting, and I somehow felt that towards the second half, the story sort of loses its direction, and I mean the twists are good. There are a lot of twists and turns, and some of them you can expect, some are like a little interesting, okay. Also, it's like if you compare the characters, Saket's character, it gets like the most interesting pieces. Also, the story is like it's all narrated by Saket, except for like few pages in the second half where Payal narrates her own version of how things went. But then otherwise, it's mostly narrated from Saket's perspective, which always sort of gives you only his point of view for all the things whatever are happening in their lives. And also Saket is the one who has like more shades, all the positive, negative shades, positive, whichever way. I felt that his character was more interesting, even when it had the negative shades and gray shades, than Payal, because Payal somehow, she just keeps on moving between very successful professional. She grows very much in her career, but then when it comes to professional and versus personal, her decisions in personal life are look a bit maybe innocent or not thought through for most of the part, which I felt like between both the characters, it's difficult to empathize with Payal and whatever she has gone through. Also in the first half, like whatever is the stubbornness that Payal's parents have in accepting Saket as their son-in-law, somehow when it comes to the second half and all, it just seems everything is like more convenient, and it doesn't make sense at some places logically, like how come someone who is so stubborn at one point, they just let go of their control over their daughter, and such things. I don't want to reveal more because that will give away the spoilers, but I just felt it's not in sync between the first half and the second half, Payal and her parents' characters. There are also other very few but interesting characters like Mudit, who is Saket's friend, who stays like from the beginning to the end with Saket, but he's also like a very cliched character. You can expect what he's going to do or say next. Same with Akanksha, who is Payal's best friend, but even her character is like you just know what she's going to say, what she's going to do next. Which I felt like it could have been, all these characters could have been better developed. Okay, but even with all of these, maybe what I felt with the characters growth, or with not so great second half, I think overall this makes the book makes for a very good read. See, as you can see, it's like a huge book. It's more than 400 pages, and I'm someone who doesn't like reading big books. I get bored after 250, 300 pages, but I really like this reading this. It's actually quite fast paced, and you don't feel like you're reading 400 pages or lengthy book. But my only complaint is the premise was good, the backdrop of this age gap, and there is a certain curiosity when you read the blurb that what else is going to happen next, and how is the love story going to be built between these two very different characters, two people from different backgrounds, different ages, and the sort of persons they are, the sort of personalities they are. But given that backdrop and all the buzz that was around this book before the release, it could have been better written, especially in the second half, and with respect to the characters, because it all gets a little you know pretty much cliched, and you can actually expect what is going to happen next. Especially the pre-climax and climax, they're not as interesting as how the first half was there. So first half was very fast and very interesting, even with whatever sequences were happening. The climax and pre-climax are like very much in an expected way. They go in a very expected fashion. But still, given all these, the pros and cons of the story and the narration, I would still say you'll not be disappointed picking this up. If you are like someone who likes to read these urban contemporary romances, it will make for a good read. It's not really going to disappoint, but then don't expect it to be like something very extraordinary with respect to characters or the treatment or whatsoever. And the 12 years, actually it has one more meaning also, not just the age gap, that you'll have to find out after reading the book. But don't be discouraged by people saying on social media about that age gap or the girl is too young. And I don't think that anywhere comes up in the story. The writer does not put anything like that into the narration. It doesn't feel uncomfortable or that Saket is sort of grooming Payal or anything like that. Payal is herself a strong person. She is like a more rebel than Saket in a lot of ways. So if you're planning to read this, don't think if the age gap or whatever is the negative buzz in social media, that is definitely not what the book is about. The book is about a lot of other things, especially like the irony that happens in Indian society when it comes to marriages. Like it just proves like through Saket's first marriage, which is an arranged marriage, and when Rashi's parents try to arrange marriage for her with Parimal, both of them are like parents don't really care about the right match for their kids. All that they're worried about is what people is going to say, what the society is going to say, is the caste and religion, all of these are matching or not. What does the what is the social consequences of this, or how much is the groom earning, and all the social status. I think those things are always considered more than giving importance to the couple who are actually getting married, or their whether they like each other or not, whether they will be compatible or not. I think the author actually tried covering those aspects. So don't look at the age gap or anything else. Pick this book to read actually about good love story, which also has all these hidden messages.